Welcome to Go For Side Effects, everyone. I'm your host, Wade Renard. Everybody knows my co-host, I should say tonight, Kevin Simon. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm wonderful. I'm going to enjoy tonight.
I bet you are. And it is a true pleasure and honor to introduce Master Sergeant retired Hector Soto. How you doing, Hector?
Hey, Wade, Kevin, appreciate you guys having me on today, man. Looking forward to it. I'm doing well.
This is long overdue, brother. Little backstory about Hector and me. We first met about maybe February, March timeframe, 1990.
90,
yes. Fort Sam, Houston. If anybody in the Army has ever been to Fort Sam, they know it is Fort Sam. We're going to what was it classified back then? 91 Alpha? Is that
91 Alpha? That was it. Yep.
91 Alpha, medical specialist. Yep. Combat Medic School. We're going to do a little background on Hector and where he came from and how he got to where he is today. So, where did you originate out of, Hector? I am way, after talking to you the other night, I am way out in left field. So we're just going to have to start.
There's so much to get to go. But I'm originally from Anaheim, California. I grew up literally blocks away from Disneyland, like a walking distance. Went to junior high there. Funny story, down the street, about 3 blocks away from where I grew up, Gwen Stefani, and no doubt that's where they're from. So,
okay.
So that's where I grew up. Got in a lot of trouble. I was banned for life from Disneyland at one point. So the only thing that kind of kept me like on the straight and narrow was playing sports. And around 1985, I ended up moving about a couple cities away, which was the best thing that ended up happening to me because I was one of those kids that had like the full house in junior high, like 3 Fs and 4 Ds and just barely squeaking by. And I moved with my dad at the time, and he put me on the straight and narrow real quick. He was a no nonsense kind of guy. Like, hey, you F around, you're going to find out real quick. So, it was one of those things. But at the same time, I had goals. I wanted to do something, but I was broke after I graduated high school. So I ended up joining the Army. I just turned 17, 17 in March. And I graduated high school in June of 89. And I was going to play college football at the time, but I was only maybe about 5'9", about 145, 150 pounds. And those guys were just way too big, way too strong and fast. So ran out of college money real quick. And then I ended up joining the Army. Just because I ran into a buddy of mine in college. He ended up joining the National Guard. I saw him with an Army PT shirt. And I was like, hey, what's the deal, man? We wrestled in high school. And he's all, man, they're paying for my college. I was like, what? How are they doing that? I knew nothing about the military when I joined. Nothing. I didn't even know we got paid. I just knew that they gave us the meal 3 times a day and we had a place to stay. That was it. So,
they saw you coming.
Yeah. Oh man, they hook, line, and sinker. They got me.
So you did basic where at?
I did Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. Yep.
Okay.
El Paso, Texas.
So then we went to that we met at Fort Sam, Houston in 90. What was that? Was that 12, 13 weeks?
Shoot. I want to say it was probably about 11 weeks. I think the school itself was 10 weeks long. But then we were there a little bit early, so we got put on all these details, painting barracks, cleaning up, doing KP, doing all those kinds of extra duties until the actual class started. Because we had to wait for all those other schools, from Fort Dix, from Fort Knox, from Fort Sill, everyone that was doing basic that were medics, they all kind of came, basically the soft places, because they were medics, they were coming from softer basic from
right. Now I remember the one thing as we were getting closer to the end of graduation. You remember our first drill sergeant?
Yes.
Kevin, I'll tell you what, this guy come out. He was better than 6 foot tall, just mean, chiseled, mean looking, and the one thing I remember about him is he had a combat patch from the 82nd Airborne, and he would call out everybody that was going to be leaving there to go to airborne school. They had a little bit of extra PT, and they're going to go for a little bit of an extra run. And we started that a couple of weeks before graduation.
which was the best thing. The best thing that could have happened to us, because it put us in the right mindset. Because again, when I was at medic school, I was just kind of partying. I was still underage, and I was just kind of freaking out. I was like, wow, holy. Put it this way, I was still 17 when I first got there. I couldn't even get into the E club at the time. They were kicking me out of the E club, and then the bouncer or the guy who checked us in was like, "Hey, Chuck E. Cheese is that way,"
Oh yeah, that was some. Fort Sam was a great time. Good memories back then.
It really was.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had our Kevin. We had our small little group, and I'm sure Wade might have talked about it, but we had our group of medics that we ended up leaving the night before graduation from medic school, because we had to get to Fort Benning on time to register and kind of get checked in and basically get our assignments where we were going to be sleeping. So we missed our graduation, right? And correct me if I'm wrong here, Wade. But this is what I remember. We all kind of were we in A's? We're in class A's, I think, at the time. I think we had to be. I don't
we're in A's for travel, yeah.
Yeah, and so we ended up going there, and it was a whirlwind. It really was, because again, I'm just trying to figure out the military. I know Wade had some, prior experience, but everyone was older than me, and I was just kind of like, hey, I was used to getting yelled at and, from sports and everything. So it wasn't really a big deal. I think the worst part for me was really the weather, learning how to deal with the weather. Growing up in Southern California, 77 degrees all year round, for the most part. And going where it was cold or where it was hot and really humid, that was an eye opener for me. I was like, what in the hell is going on here?
So my question is, I have a really important. So both y'all 82nd.
Yep.
Both y'all lost your damn mind jumping out of a perfectly good airplane with parachute. Just saying. Okay, I just want to bring that up to you.
Well, we did the airborne course, which was 3 weeks. Just to throw it out there, if there's any more airborne people out in the audience, we were in Delta Company, the Rock. So we went to the hard company. There's 3 or 4, and Delta is the only hard one. Isn't that right, Hector?
Delta was the Rock. That was the Rock. It was the Rock and everybody else.
Why was it so hard?
I don't know. It's had that reputation ever since it's ever been.
Oh, really?
I don't know why, but
it was one of those things, Kevin. It was really weird, though. Like, as we always went along, or as I went along in my experience, it was like, hey, we're always going to give you the crappy assignment, right? and I learned right away in the military. It was like, okay, let me. I could always hope for the best, but I'm going to expect the worst, and that was my mentality, kind of going through everything that was going on. So it got me through.
We ended up down at not the same time, because we took leave. We ended up down at 82nd reception, and once you get there, that's when you get your assignments. And pretty much there, everybody scatters to the wind. So from there, Hector, where did you end up?
So from the 82nd, when I came back from leave, they sent me to the 19th replacement. So I was originally supposed to go to COSCOM, and so a group of us were there, Rogers and I think Coyle and stuff. And then we got bumped over to the 82nd. So we spent another week there at the replacement detachment. So I ended up with headquarters and headquarters company of 307th Engineer Battalion. So I was in there. It wasn't a medical platoon because we were small. So it was a medical section. And then the way it worked was I think we had about 10 medics, and they split us up. 3 per line or 3 per company. So basically each medic had a platoon. So we had Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and then we had 618th Engineer Company, which was like our heavy equipment. And they're all the guys that kind of dozed the airfield after we blew it up and, kind of seized it. So.
And that would have been, if I recall right, just going off my own timeline, that give or take about June of 1990 would have been about June of 1990. Yeah. So in August of 1990, I know I was in Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. And where were you?
When we got the call up, or I should say, I barely got assigned to my platoon, got assigned to my company. I went out to the field, and we were out in the field, I think, for my first week that I was there. And we did like demo ranges. And I was like, man, I didn't even know what C4 was, right? So they're going out and blowing stuff up, and I'm like, hey, that's really cool. And I'm just sitting back and kind of watching, making sure, and that's when I did my first live stick IV. We had one of our guys get dehydrated, right? It's North Carolina, it's hot and humid. It's raining, but it was hot as heck. And so I did my first stick out there in the field. We came back, and then I got put on Deployment Ready Force 1 or Division Ready Force 1, which was basically we had a 2-hour recall if anything were to happen around the world. So the way it works is in the 82nd, rapid deployment, you have every battalion. There's 9 battalions essentially. Everybody has about a 2-hour differential. So if DRF 1 was we were 2-hour recall, then DRF 2 was a 4-hour, 6-hour, 8, 10, right, all the way through. And the way it was, no pagers, no cell phones back then. So,
well, pagers, if you're like an E4 or above, you could afford it.
Right. Shoot, man. I was at the chow hall every day. Taco Bell was a luxury. But yeah, I remember going to the movies on the night we ended up getting our call. But at the movies, we had to send someone back to the payphone to call in like every 45 minutes to an hour, just to our CQs, our charge recorder desk, just to make sure, hey, is anything going on? We're checked in. They logged us in, basically saying accountability purposes. And then nothing happened. And so we came back. It's probably about 11:30 at night. I want to say it was Monday, August 6th. And then right around midnight, I got the pounding on my door. CQ pounding on my door. And he's telling me, hey, Doc, look out your window. Your platoon's about ready to leave. I was like, leave for what? Because we were light infantry. They kept telling us this ain't our war when Iraq invaded Kuwait. We're like, and we thought if anything, we were going to go somewhere, do some like drug stuff over in South America, Central America, because that was like heating up at that time, right after Panama. So, but that's when we got the call. We ended up going to the old World War II barracks, and they locked us in, put the barbed wire all around us, and no telephone access, no nothing, and just cut us off from the rest of the world. So it was pretty interesting at that point. Again, new to the Army, new to this whole deployment. I thought this was business as usual. I thought that's how the rest of the Army.
Cherry stem is just a flying in the wind.
Exactly. We got Jeffrey Ford, who's over. I see him in the comments, right? But he was down the hall. I remember him. He might have even been on CQ that day. So, but yeah, he was. They were always telling us, and when I got there, it was an eye opener though, because you went directly to an infantry battalion, but they were, these guys were sharp, and I was like, oh, I need to step up my game, right? I need to start soldiering. It's not about partying anymore right now, and I kind of figured things out real quick. So, yeah, so we went to that cantonment area, and again, it was just go, go, go. I don't remember really getting any sleep. And we ended up going to a warehouse. It was just like Costco. It was the craziest thing ever. And, as we walked through, they're like, okay, sizing you up, central, issue facility, CIF, that's what we call it in the Army. It was kind of like that, but for ammo. And they said, what do you want? And I was like, what do you mean what do I want? They had the counters. They had a little back stock in the back, like examples of, hey, this is a Claymore mine. This, these are the grenades. These are, this is C4, this is TNT, det cord, whatever. And before we actually went in there, and I had my duffel bag with me, my squad leader at the time said, hey, Doc, get everything you can possibly get. I don't care if it belongs to you or not, get everything you can possibly get. I was like, okay. I'll take 9mm rounds. I took M16 rounds. And at the time, I didn't have an M16. I just had the 9mm that was issued to me. And then I took Claymore mines. I took grenades. I even took a light anti-tank weapon.
What?
we didn't have to sign for anything. It was just like, what do you want? And it was, here you go, right
it's
there.
Like trick or treat.
Damn.
Coolest thing ever.
I should join the army.
Again, I was just like, I thought this is how the army ran. And I was like, wow, this is like better than the movies, So we go through the line, and then we got back to our cantonment area. And I remember a squad kind of circling up, and it was just like Halloween. You know, when you have all your candy and you kind of put it all in the middle and your parents inspect it? That's exactly what we did. We had all these soldiers kind of dumping out all their ammo and everything. And then everyone's like, well, I want this and I want that. It was like hungry hippos. Everybody kind of grabbing it. And our squad leader was like, calm down, put everything back. You know, we're going to divvy it up, and we're going to make sure even loads. And my squad leader at the time, he was an engineer because he got assigned to the platoon. He just came back from Ranger School. He was like an honor graduate at Ranger School. So a little guy, maybe 5'7", 5'6", about 135 pounds. But this dude was friggin' tough as nails, man. Harder than woodpecker lips. You know, he was one of those guys that you just, anytime he spoke, and he was very intelligent, really smart guy. He was like, man, that's a guy you want to follow, you know, just, you know, he ended up going special forces, was a Green Beret, but, you know, that quiet professional type. And it always inspired confidence. And I was like, man, this guy knows so much. And to be honest, looking back on it now, he really didn't. He had maybe been in the Army 3 years at that point, you know, but he inspired confidence. And I was like, man, I'm going to follow this guy. You know, if anything, he's not going to get killed. So,
right.
Yeah. Really cool guy. Really, really, you know, and I learned a lot from him. And, you know, in our platoon, and I have I still have our jump log, because, you know, we were supposed to jump in, you know, if we were going to go anywhere, but you got to prep for all that stuff as a medic going on DRF, making sure all your guys had their shots, making sure, you know, everybody was up to date on their physical, you know, any type of physical limitations were addressed before we, you know, assumed. And if someone wasn't fit, they got rid of them and brought someone else in, you know, took their place. So that's what we did in the weeks leading up. While you guys were at training over in Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, that's kind of what we were doing back in the rear, kind of getting that stuff taken care of. And
now,
I
meant to ask you about that. We never did cover that, though. But did you guys go through a battery of pre-deployment shots?
We did.
Okay. I was wondering about that.
So we did that as we were doing everything, because we got inspected. The division inspectors would come by from headquarters, from the 82nd Airborne. They would come by, and anybody that was assuming DRF or deployment ready force at that time, they would get inspected and get graded, you know, command inspection. So it was, you know, I think it was just back then, I think it was just green, yellow, or red. Either you passed it, you had some deficiencies, or you just failed completely. And so my squad leader, you know, for the medics, Dave Philippi, he was an hard ass, real hard ass, but I learned so much from that guy. He was so knowledgeable also. And we got all our stuff taken care of, and we passed it with flying colors, our inspection, at least the medical portion anyway. So by the time we ended up getting ready to deploy, everything was good, but we ended up getting more shots at the cantonment area. You know, that's when they issued us our nerve agent pills and atropine and, you know, all that other stuff that went along with it. So, yeah. And in fact, Corey Coyle, one of the medics we went to school with, she was the one that gave me my Globin over at the cantonment area. Like, you know, we had no idea, you know, we're just kind of going through the, you know, like all the lines and just go to the next line. And I was like, shit, Corey. He's like, all right, turn around, drop trout. Here you get your shot, right? You're fine. So.
Oh, that's funny. So you guys get to Saudi Arabia, and we talked about that, but you didn't go to Champion, Maine right away.
No, as a matter of fact, the only time I went to Champion, Maine was to go visit our headquarters and headquarters company, which was my medical supply that I picked up. And it wasn't very often. I probably went that whole time in Desert Shield. I think I maybe went about 3-4 times to Champion, Maine.
So then, where were you guys at? Like, who were you tasked out with?
So we were 2nd Brigade, and normally 2nd Brigade kind of stuck together, and that was 1st, 2nd, and 4th battalions of 325 Airborne Infantry Regiment. And when we first got there, we landed in Dhahran, and then we just were. It was miserable. We were in the makeshift Bedouin tents, and it was on the tarmac was maybe about 135. When we got off the plane, the battalion commander gets on the plane, gets in front of everybody, and says, "All right, guys, hey, we aren't playing games anymore. I need everybody to camo up. We're the 82nd. We have an image, sleeves down, and it's 5:30 in the evening. So we camo up our face, everything, and we're trying to look. There's going to be news cameras there and everything, and it's not like the airports today where you have the ramp and you end up in the airport. It was on the tarmac,
right?
You have the stairs, you go down. Well, when we got to the plane, to exit that door position of the airplane, and by the time we got to the bottom of the steps, that was just smeared. It looked like that Adam Sandler movie where the guy is crying. He's like a Boy George looking. Mascara is just kind of dripping all off. It was miserable.
Now, are we doing woodland camo in desert environment?
No, they actually passed out the light loam. I think it was light loam. Yeah.
So what color is that?
It was like take your shirt. One side of the camo stick was about what your shirt is, Kevin, and the other side was kind of like a greenish gray, a light greenish gray. That was about it. But when they mixed together, it made for a good formula. It made you look like you had smeared mascara or something going on. So
I would have laughed at y'all if I would have saw y'all. I would have been like,
yeah, it was pretty.
Heck?
And good thing there weren't news cameras there because that would have been pretty embarrassing. You'd see all that stuff on TV. We're supposed to be like America's Guard of Honor, and then all of a sudden you get to see everybody wearing makeup.
America's Blush of Honor there.
Right. So yeah, that was in Dhahran. We get Dhahran Airport. I think we spent about 3 days there waiting for our vehicles to our Humvees to get there. And once we got our Humvees, we moved up north. They called it Falcon. I think it was called Falcon 2. Our mascot was the Falcons for 2nd Brigade, and it was an abandoned trailer park, and it was up in Al Jabal. It was right by there was like a what do you want to call that? I don't know if it was a naval station that was up. We were close to, but it was definitely a docking area, for naval ships and everything like that. And that was north of Dhahran, and we stayed there a couple months. And then what we ended up doing is we ended up moving the whole brigade down. So 3 different battalions to Abqaiq, which was south of Dhahran, and that was near. And I think we were there to protect a Ramco. Ramco was the oil company that was over there, and they had oil fields and stuff like that. So we were kind of like the defense because there were supposed to be like terrorist attacks and things like that. So we were out there, but we were split up by probably about a couple kilometers each battalion, because they just kept 1st battalion was far west, then it was 2nd, and then 4th was closer to Abqaiq itself. So we stayed there until I remember doing the holidays there. I ended up our lieutenant ended up sending me on that love cruise.
Oh, really?
Yes, because he didn't want to pick anyone that was organic to the platoon. So he's like, "Doc, we're sending you." But I was like, I always volunteered for like all the crap details, KP, anything that we had. I would just to stay busy, because if we weren't training,
the love cruise,
nothing going on.
Oh, tell him about the love cruise, Hector.
What the hell?
The Cunard Princess. That was a civilian. That's I think it's a
cruise ship.
It was a cruise ship, a legit cruise ship that was parked in Bahrain.
Oh, I saw it there. Okay, yes. You got to go on that thing.
I did. And again, I had just turned 18. Yeah, they made a mistake because they put me with 2 of the biggest drunks in the battalion. Bobby Severizzo, right? And classic New Yorker. had the New York accent, was just, F word this, F word that, F word that, but he would have your back in a heartbeat. And then Scomp, God, what the heck was his first name? Scomp was another guy who lived down the hall from us, but Scomp was another little guy, maybe about 125 pounds, but dude could drink like there was no tomorrow. And I went with them on the cruise ship, because it was from different companies. So we all ended up there. We were like, hey, we gravitated towards one another because we all ended up there at the same time. And they served alcohol on the ship, right? You had to pay for it, but we were there for, I don't know how many, 4 months, 5 months at that time. And it was like, we had money in our bank account because we weren't spending it anywhere. So
did they do like shows for y'all?
Yeah, they had all that stuff. I didn't go to any of that stuff. We just drank.
What is that?
I probably in 3 days, I want to say I probably spent anywhere from about $1,200, about $1,500 in alcohol.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Seriously?
it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot.
It was worth it though, wasn't it?
Yeah, we thought that was our last meal. We thought that was going to be the last thing that we ended up doing. So one of the days we ended up sneaking out off the ship. Probably the dumb, not very smart, right? We had no idea. It's 2 E4s and me, the E2, right? We sneak off the ship and we go into town. We hail a taxi and tell the taxi driver, hey, alcohol, drink, bar. And he knew where to take us. 20, hindsight's 2020, but probably not so smart. We probably could have, been one of those guys that, or those guys that could have, been kidnapped and,
donate a kidney somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But we stayed out all night and it was one of those things that we had so much fun. It was a great time because we just thought we weren't coming back. So might as well have the, I think that's when I got it in my head that, hey, this is real, and we may not be coming back. So it was one of those points that, those pivotal times during that whole deployment, they just kind of, you get those epiphanies about certain things. And that was one of those times for me that I was like, wow, this isn't just training anymore. This is like real. And that's when, as I was drinking, and I probably had, one of those I love you moments. You're the best, best guy ever. It was probably during one of those times that it was like, hell, man, these guys might not come back. I might not come back.
Right.
And
it's just. Could you imagine though being the guys that offloaded all the body bags, thinking, what the hell are they expecting with all the body bags? I mean, really think about that, because you're some E1, E2 just got it in the military. They send you over there and you see nothing but body bags, and you're like, what?
Yeah. Well, funny you bring that up, Kevin, because right about that time before we ended up going up north, we had a dump when we left Fort Bragg. We had to dump all the equipment we thought wasn't necessary, and guess what? We thought wasn't necessary at that time, right? August in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, sleeping bags. So we tried to lighten our load. We didn't have sleeping bags, so we dumped that. And right around November, maybe December timeframe, our supply guys came around, and guess what they brought us? Body bags. Yes, and we ended up using those body bags as our sleeping bags with our poncho liner.
You're not, you gotta be kidding.
I am dead serious.
Let's go ahead and sleep in this thing and see if it fits you, by the way.
Yeah, we took the plastic liner out, but we had the polyester or whatever it was, the nylon. But yeah, that was and a lot of the guys were kind of like, I'm not going to do that. But we realized pretty quickly over time that it got cold in the desert.
It was cold. Yeah, it was cold out.
Really cold. So, so that was, man, what was that time? That was right around Christmas time. I think we ended up on that cruise ship right before Christmas, New Year, somewhere around there, that time frame. And right after New Year's, I remember I was part of the Airborne party for our engineer platoon. We took a squad, and the squad leader that I was with, he ended up in the 90s. He ended up Delta Force, and he was doing stuff in Bosnia and Czechoslovakia all through the 90s. But at the time, he was just Staff Sergeant Boyven, who big, burly, kind of knuckle dragging kind of guy, spoke like 5 languages. He always play with his nose because he had no cartilage left in his nose. And the one trick he would always do was stick his dog tag chain up, one nostril, pull it out the other. But he was a guy that great guy, calm as could be. But when you pissed him off, oh man, it was scary because he was like just a bear, long arms, and it was just strong as hell. I think he bench pressed somewhere around 450 pounds. Like that's how strong he was. And that was a guy that you never wanted to mess with. But we ended up going to Airborne party, and we went way out west, northwest of Saudi Arabia. I don't even know where exactly it was. I want to say there's a city or a town called Rafah near the border of Iraq, and we went beyond that. And we were there for days, just kind of setting up, and we did recons out there on foot patrols, just on our first objective. And I didn't get to go on all of them, because they're like, hey, you need to stay back here because there wasn't very many medics. But we did foot patrols when I did go, and just kind of reconned and watched and observed what our first objective was. And what it was a guard tower. And there's some pictures of it that they go around. They kind of lead through our route, or the main supply route that was going to go up to Iraq, to Basra, or wherever it was, and we ended up going to Lille at that time. So it was, So all that was, it was just strange how it went about. And I tell people this all the time because when we went up north at part of that Airborne party, I had one shower in 90 days. And that was from like January. And that was one legit shower in between those 90 days until we redeployed back home. And we ended up
people about that, and they just can't comprehend.
Yeah,
right. We did the little whore baths, little towel, and kind of did that thing, but it was cold. And a lot of times the water that we had in our 5-gallon jugs was on the verge of being frozen. And so it was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'll just kind of wash my face a little bit, brush my teeth. Yeah. And, you kind of go, the picture of me going to the bathroom was at that Airborne area. So if you, I don't know if you have that up or not, Kevin, but that's what
there we go.
Look at that.
There.
There we go.
Oh man, look at that. I just gotta, that's one way you don't have to stir the poop.
Look, that's exactly it. So if you look at that picture a little carefully, underneath my ass is actually a toilet seat. Now, on one of the raids that we ended up doing,
right there. Oh, there sure is. There's something white.
Yep, we ended up raiding a truck stop, and that squad leader I told you about, Sergeant Jungbloom at the time. First thing he did was he went to the bathroom and he ripped that toilet seat off, and we kind of made fun of him at first. He's like, "Watch, you guys watch. You'll see how valuable that is." And we had it over. He put the seat over the whip antenna, and so it was hanging on the back of our Humvee at the time. And so he's like, "Stop the vehicle! I got to go to the bathroom." And he just dug his little trench hole, and his foxhole, and he threw the seat down, and we were like, mind blown. Wow. But going in comfort, instead of trying to maybe, balance yourself on an MRE box or ass touching the sand, it was one of those
but could you imagine though? You're the only one that got that picture taken of you. So there was a reason they're like, hey, we're going to have something on him, guys, because he got to go to the Love Boat.
I'm telling you, right? And we do everything in teams, and we're in that Airborne party, right? Because we're right on the border. So it was like, man, I got to go. When you got to go, you don't care anymore. There's a certain time you reach that time.
And you don't worry about the spiders.
Nope.
You don't worry about the scorpions or those little snaky things rolling around. So, Kevin, you would have loved it out there.
No, absolutely freaking not, man. Absolutely not. I'm telling you, the first time I would have saw one of the creepy little things crawling, I'd been running. I'd be running. I'd be like, I'm an Army. I'm going to Navy.
Look, we had a few guys get stung by scorpions, just crawling in their boots, or just if they put their top down on the ground and then scorpions climb up in there. Our lieutenant had one, and we didn't know what was. We thought he was having a heart attack or a stroke because his arm just went numb, and we were like, "What's going on? What's going? What?" And we couldn't figure it. We couldn't find anything. There was no like bite spot or anything like this, sting or. So it was just one, and then we ended up sending him back to the rear for a couple hours. He came back and he was like, "No, it was just a scorpion." And I was like, "Okay, cool, right."
Oh my gosh! Oh no,
So,
absolutely not.
Well, I want to fast forward a little bit to. I don't think we have the picture. Maybe Kevin might have it. Maybe I don't. I think we talked about it. But the picture of your portrait with the explosions going on. I guess that'd be to your forefront.
okay.
It was on the post, but could you explain more about what that was all about?
So when that picture was taken, that was one of the ammo supply dumps or pits, whatever you want to call it, ammo supply points. And that was there was a lot of confusion and on certain dates, but here's a couple things that I know. I redeployed back. I think we left March 7th from Kobar Towers. We went to Dhahran. We redeployed back to America on March 7th.
That's when you got.
Yeah,
okay.
We were on a plane and headed back. So this had to happen right around March 3rd or 4th. Again, don't know the exact date, but it was around that time frame. But what we ended up doing is we did our initial push with 2nd Brigade. Infantry, we encountered, some tanks here and there, had some experience, some sniper fire.
Just a little sniper fire.
We didn't know what was going on, and we were just kind of looking around. One of our guys got hit pretty seriously. We had to medevac him out. And then, a couple days later, they said, "Hey, we need you guys. All the engineers are going up north. You guys got to go to Talil in Nasiriyah, that area. And you guys got a mission over there." We didn't exactly know what the mission was. All we knew, our platoon sergeant and our platoon leader said, "Hey, while we're rolling up there, we need you guys prep and demo." So we were making satchel charges. We were making improvised, Claymore mines, all those types of things. We were just putting C4 together and taping it up, putting det cord in there, just prepping everything that we had. We had mines, TNT, C4, and we had a trailer full of it in addition to what was in the back of our Humvees. So it was for hours. I want to say maybe about 12 hours, 12-hour drive or something like that, right around that time frame. It took us to get where we were going. And we were going pretty fast, but it was the worst ride ever because it was raining. It was cold. We were that classic, it was, what do we call it? Butts to nuts. We were butts to nuts, man, in the back of those Humvees because we were freezing, setting all that stuff up. But by the time we got to Talil Air Base, they said, "Hey, guys, this is what our mission is. We need you to go around. You're going to destroy every piece of Iraqi equipment you could find. We're going to daisy chain these ammo supply points, the little caches that they got. I say little, but they were huge. We'd get, they're underground. Artillery rounds as far as you can see down, in that basement, whatever you want to call. At a certain point, though, we kind of like scratched our heads and we were like, "Hey, we know they have chemical weapons here. Or what does the yellow stripe mean? Or what does this color stripe?" But everything was in Russian, right? So it was like, Russian ammo that was there. So we just said, "Hey, screw it." They told us to daisy chain it and get it ready. And we did that. in the meantime, we were blowing up, like, they had a couple Hindy airport helicopters that were out there. They had artillery pieces. They had other APCs, armored personnel carriers that were out there. And it was like a demo range run amok. Like, everybody was just, hey, again, the worst thing I think you could ever do when you go to a range with the Army is try to turn in ammo or NAC4. You don't want to do the paperwork. You don't want to do any of that stuff. So we were like, we need to put it all out there and we need to get rid of it.
That's
and then
crazy.
right about, so that's what that picture was. We rigged everything up. That took probably a day or so, I want to say. My memory's not too good about all that. But we thought we were far enough away. We were probably 500, maybe about a click away, 500 meters, maybe a click away. And our battalion commander was up in the air, and he click, and set that thing off. And we thought we were good. We're like, hey, check that out. We were like, wow, big, huge plume up in the air in the sky. It was cool for a couple minutes, maybe a couple seconds. And then the rounds started cooking off and started incoming on us. And we were like,
crap.
Yeah, we were like, what? This wasn't part of the plan. What are we doing? This wasn't part of it. So we had we were like ducking. We had a few rounds that landed close proximity, maybe about 10 meters away, but didn't go off. Like, they just landed, like, from the blast just launched them. And it was crazy. It was so crazy. So we got in our Humvees and we were hauling ass. We were like trying to get out of that AO. And even as we were driving away, we're maybe going about 35, 45 miles an hour in the Humvees, as fast as they would go at that time. Rounds were kind of still cooking off around us, like incoming, and you would hear them cutting through the air and kind of just going whizzing right by. So it was pretty wild stuff. And then I don't know the exact moment of the picture, but I know we were looking back and kept looking back, and we all kind of took turns looking back and making sure we were good. And that's when that.
Yeah. I was turning my ass around to make sure that I still had a butt.
It was something that, again, you don't really think too much about it. You're just kind of in the moment at the time. And, once we got beyond all that and reached a point that we, it was pretty safe, we were like, what the F just happened? What did we just do? Right? Because that plume was we could still see the plume from miles away at that point.
But be honest, you got to be honest with me. You had a big smile on your face at the same time you were scared shitless. Going, Lou, check that out. What we just got to do. My mom and dad ain't gonna believe this.
That was probably the highlight. It really was. As scary as it was, that was definitely a highlight. Just you've seen fireworks shows, right? You've seen them, whether it's Disneyland or Independence Day celebration, something like that. That there's no match for that. There was no match for that. The sound, everything that was just kind of going off. It was amazing.
Now, you bring that up about the fireworks. Anytime I go see a fireworks show, I agree with you. From a distance, when we were watching it, out at sea, thank God, we were watching what y'all were doing. It was amazing. I was like, man, this is better than freaking watching a fireworks show. And the thing is you would see the flash and then you kind of hear a boom every once in a while. It was, but you could see it mainly. And you're just like, well, damn. And it's really neat because you're looking through night vision and it was green. And you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
I want to get to a couple more and I'm not trying to hurry you along, Hector, but there is so much that I want to get to. And I know we're not really limited on time, but you told me you got out, give or take, about August of 92.
I did. Yeah.
What'd you do after that?
I left the Army at that point. I was on that 2-year plus training, and then join, stay in the reserve after that, or guard. But I left the military because I had aspirations of playing football. I wanted to go back and play football again in college. And again, I did that for a year. Went back and played for Fullerton. And well, let me kind of retract that. I was on the team. I had 2 plays the whole time. 2 plays, and they were both in preseason, so they really didn't count.
Okay, but I'm gonna make you feel good. When I was in high school, I didn't play. I was on the team, but I was mainly the equipment boy, and so I stood on. Well, golly, man, I was like 4'2", while everybody else is 5 foot something, and they'd be like, "Hey, Simon, get over here and give your shoestrings to Cook." And I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me!" So I know how you feel.
Yeah, so it was like, and you get that realization, yeah, these guys aren't that, they're pretty damn good. I was a big fish in a small pond at one point, and when you go there, everybody's an all-star, and you're like, wow. But then during that season, though, that's when a lot of stuff started going wrong with me militarily, like my body started failing, and I didn't recognize the signs or symptoms. I didn't know what was going on. I remember one day, and this had nothing to do with football. This was just one day before I even started the program, getting back into it. Like, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't feel my legs. It was really, really weird. And I debated whether I was going to call 911, but I didn't out of embarrassment. I was too embarrassed to call. And it was, it's one of those things, right? We do in the military. You suck it up. You've been taught, hey, suck it up. And I just kind of calmed down, and maybe about 35, 40 minutes had passed. And I was like, okay, I was able to move my legs again and stuff, but my body started failing me. Whether it was ortho type stuff, torn muscles, IBS, everybody, talks about that. That's a real pain in the ass, to deal with. It really is, and just all these little things. And when I left the Army at that time, the transition program, it wasn't really anything. You just wrote a resume, and they briefly looked at it, and they said, okay, you're good to go. You can leave. Here, let me stamp your paperwork. You can leave the Army. And no one really talked about it, VA benefits or anything like that. And at the time, I was so young. I was 20 when I left, So I go back. I'm in college. The football doesn't work out. Still in college part-time, but then I started working construction, doing that stuff for a few years. And I was in the IRR, Individual Ready Reserve, for about three and a half years after I left. And I football didn't work out. So I had kind of that regret. And I was like, you know what? I should have stayed in the Army. I know I could have been successful, doing something like, Ranger Battalion, or staying in the 82nd and maxing out what I could do there, or maybe going on, Green Berets. And I was like, you know what? Let me get back into it. And so I went back to a recruiter, and I was like, I want to go back. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I wanted to go infantry. And they came back. They said, no, you can't. You got to stay in your current MOS. And this is about 1995 that I came back in. And I was like, you know what? Let me go to Korea. I'll go to Korea for a year. Let me get in shape. And let me, I'll either go to Ranger Battalion, or I'm going to, submit my personnel action to go to selection. And I ended up getting orders to go to 2nd Ranger Battalion when I was getting ready to leave Korea. But then one of those injuries, I completely tore the quadricep in my left thigh throwing a football, of all things. Don't ask me how that happens, but that was one of the, these were like the stuff, weirdest things. And that basically hemmed me up for about 4 to 6 months. And I couldn't go to Ranger Battalion because they don't accept profiles. And I was like, well, where do I go? Fort Bragg wouldn't accept me at that time. And I was like, the only option I had was to go to National Training Center at Fort Irwin, and middle of nowhere, halfway between Los Angeles and Vegas. So I ended up going there. But I will tell you this, though. Again, getting back to drinking, right? Drinking was a main factor probably in me not being successful in that part, because I drank a lot. I didn't realize what was going on with me psychologically or anything. It was just, that was my coping mechanism for a lot of things. So
how many jumps do you have?
34. I did 34.
34. Yeah, that's it. 34 reasons why you shouldn't have done it. Right there. Oh.
Yeah. So it was, the 34, because we were such a small section, we were probably going, at least one of us was, well, I would say about two of us probably every week. Two of the medics every week, we had to go with the platoon that was jumping or go do something. And a lot of times, maybe 50% of the jump times we went up in the air, Wade, you can vouch for this, we didn't jump because the winds were too high or some sort of conditions. So, they'd bring us right back and we'd kind of do the same thing. So, but the jumps played a factor. I know that, for a fact now. I was knocked out on one of the jumps. We had collision in the back of the plane, exited the door at the same time. And
what?
It's actually quite common. As medics, we would do drop zone coverage. So you would hear, at nighttime, people jumping. By the moonlight, you get to see all the parachutes, all the silhouettes kind of coming down, and then they kind of disappear for a minute, as they go down, and then you start hearing the screams, medic, medic. They're gonna go hunt for people. Trying to find them on the drop zone.
Over the drop zone, so you don't run them over.
Right, exactly. No, we were on foot a lot of times. We were on foot because we didn't want to. Once we did that, then we went lights up, and then
you're a lot better if they just crash into your Humvee ambulance.
You seen those videos?
Oh. No, I saw them videos of that guy crashing into a Humvee. I was like, there's why I joined the Navy. I guess it's just my opinion, and no, it's probably 99.9% of people's opinion, is why whenever you jump, you gotta have something so stupid to go through your mind to go, I'm gonna go out this perfectly good looking door right here that has nothing there and jump.
Kevin, you know what it was? Do you know what it was?
The money.
$110 extra a month.
I am not kidding you. There is a guy, his name is Walter. I won't say his last name on here. He was in he was in between like World War II and Korea, but he did go to Korea. And he goes, you know why I jumped, Kevin? He goes, $50 a month. And I would send that back to my family. I'm like, $50? $50? And he's like, yeah, 50. No. That's not, you could, oh no. Mm-mm.
I think it might be up to $210 now a month.
Yeah, and it's not. You can comparatively, it's not. Yeah, it's.
Y'all should have got 1,000. Y'all should have got 1,000.
Bring that up to Congress.
I agree, Kevin. Thank you.
I'm gonna put this up here, Kevin. You got to go pee. People are puking. Your body falls apart. Yeah, ain't no amount of money. No amount of money.
That's exactly what it's like getting ready to go out that plane. So by the time that door opens in the airplane, everybody's like, get me out. I just want to get out because
somebody's puking. Oh yeah, my God. Puking. No.
So it just creates a daisy chain of other people puking and yeah.
Well, a lot of guys in the Navy puke, they get seasick, but because see, I did say, was it 20 or 25,000 people we get on Facebook all jump out of an airplane? Was it 25?
20,000.
20,000. Oh, I said 20,000. I'll jump out of an airplane.
He volunteered. He's going to do a tandem jump.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I'm not going to do it all by myself. Here you go, Ken. Put this on, and you can figure out the chords as you go down.
No. Do a water jump.
Yeah, do a water jump. Yeah, it'd be like cement. Yeah.
So Hector, you had active duty time, correct?
Yep.
You got out, came back in on active duty.
Yep.
You got out again and did reserve time?
I did. Yes.
You got activated for reserve and did another deployment. When was that other deployment?
That was for prior to OIF-1, Iraqi Freedom 1. We were mobilized, activated for Enduring Freedom, and then we got rerouted to Iraqi Freedom before Iraqi Freedom became Iraqi Freedom. So, but then I was with a medical company, ground ambulance medical company, and it was out of Southern California. Now, E5, been at E5 for a minute, get to the unit. We end up, it was, you do drill, 1 week in a month. And I remember going to drill like in December, and the operational tempo was just different. Like our commanders were running around, Sergeant Major was gone. Everybody was in meetings, and I was like, okay, it's not adding up. It's not going on, And I remember I called my wife and I told her, hey, something's not right. I don't know what's going on, but it's not right over here. It just looks different. And later on that before we left, they took the leaders in and they said, hey guys, we're going to be mobilized in the next couple of weeks for Enduring Freedom. And I was like, oh shit. Going in the reserve unit, we had a bunch of E4s and below, and all of them, most of them, 2 years or less in service. Never been on a deployment, never been to like a training range, never been to a JRTC or NTC type thing environment. And I was like, okay, wow. Yeah, this is where I was meant to be. I needed to be here at that time. So it was like, and funny thing, again, here's those injuries and stuff like that. I was going to college. I was doing an internship for sports medicine, and I was working early morning shift for UPS. So I was doing like 4 hours a day. I completely tore my right shoulder. So the labrum, rotator cuff, tore all that. And when they said we were deploying, I was like, okay, I got to suck it up and just kind of figure out a way to make sure I deploy, because they actually coded me as non-deployable because of the stuff I was going through. And so I had to sit down and do like a come to Jesus moment with the doctor so he could sign off my paperwork for me to deploy.
Wow.
So, yeah. And
that's a badass right there, man.
It was more of just like you felt obligated, and I didn't want to see young people,
right,
go through that alone, because I was more experienced than the first sergeant, more experienced than the company commander and the executive officer there. And there was a couple of guys in the unit that had some experience, but they, not to my level, and I'm not trying to brag about it, but it was
right.
It really was night and day.
Right.
So we ended up going, yeah.
And I mean, I know Kevin, we're getting short on time, but I do want to get through what I had on here, but I know you got through that deployment. And so you had your reserve time. And then I know we talked about, you went to active guard and reserve time. So you're basically a full-time working for the Guard Reserve. And then you retired. You ended up retiring. Was it last year?
September of 2024.
September of 24. And so cumulatively, how many years total did you have for your retirement?
Total, everything was 35 years. So that was a combined IRR, reserve, guard.
Damn.
So 35 years messing with the U.S. government.
29 years of active federal. So they counted 29 years of that, all that.
Wow.
So, and I will tell everybody that if you go to his Facebook page, the number one thing he lists about himself first is father.
Absolutely.
The number one family man. His medic and army is like third or fourth. He's a father and a husband first. And that should be commended. I think that's awesome.
I think, yeah, I really, and let me tell you, I commend your wife.
Yes.
I commend your wife.
And if anyone hasn't seen that photo of that fruit salad that he has on his chest, I can't tell you now. I told Kevin I'm gonna have a clairvoyant or a telepathy moment here. So this is kind of how I want to finish up the show a little bit here. On your whole uniform, I can't tell you 1/3 of the things that are on your uniform, but on your uniform as a whole, I want you to pick the top 3 that you are either one, the most proud of, or you would never give up in rank of order. Things that are on your uniform. And I have them written down on my list here.
I will say, I'll put it this way. My combat medical badge is probably going to be 1. That'll be number 1. Number 2 would be my jump wings, because that just lets everybody know how much better I am than they are. And number 3, wow. You know what? I'll put my rank. I'll put my rank up there, just simply because as I moved up in rank, I didn't make E9. And to be honest, a lot of people say it and stuff like that, but I put my family first, and I was comfortable with getting assignments as long as it was a good place to go. And a lot of people kind of lectured me on it, and they're like, you're putting your career at risk. But I was like, you know what? It's all about quality of life now. Let me try to get the best out of the quality of life I have, because my wife and the kids put up with it too much already. And the last part of my career, I spent as a recruiting and retention NCO, which was, to be honest with you, I tried to deploy multiple times to get out of that job because it sucked. It was
being the father and the husband you are. Can you let everybody know where you did retire from to, or where you did?
So I had the option when I was in California, which is home for me. I was doing recruiting and retention out there, but I had the option that was presented to me to either go to the Pentagon, go to Minnesota, which my daughter was in that area, or go to Hawaii. So I chose no brainer. My wife's from Hawaii. We ended up in Hawaii. So that was an easy decision for us.
Yeah.
Now, is this one of your children? Megan?
Yep, that's her. Oh my goodness. That's my oldest.
Awesome. You know what? That's what I like to see right there. Best dad and granddad ever. That I tell you what, that tells a lot about your character.
I appreciate that, Kevin.
A lot about your character. And
it means a lot. It really is, because it's never really about me. I'll make jokes here and there and stuff like that, but and Wade knows, Kevin, as well. Sometimes we'll get bravado and all amped up and stuff like that, but really it's always about
I just have to say one thing. This is the last memory of this show that she's going to remember her father as, right there. I mean, I'm just saying. I had to do it.
Oh, Kevin, you want to take us home?
I'll take us home. We're going to hit the after the show, guys. And I mean, I tell you, Hector, thank you
absolutely
so much. And,
like I said, this has been great.
And everybody in the comments, thank you also. Y'all put great comments up there and everything. But y'all want to contact me at kevinsimon@goforsideffects.com. You contact me at kevinsimon@goforsideffects.com. Y'all go check out our after show. We have it on Facebook, Patreon, Spotify. Y'all can go check it. And that's what we're about to hit into. And I just want to thank everybody. I mean, everybody's just doing a fabulous job. And thank you for your service, Hector. 35 years of service is just unbelievable. Jumping out of an airplane? Absolutely not. That's on you. That's your fault, not mine. So we're now going to hit the after show. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.